It's Wednesday, the 4th of September. I'm your most excellent host, Joey Only. Party on, Joey. Party on. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the weather right now. Don't get used to good weather, because it never lasts for very long in British Columbia. You know that. In fact, we've had kind of a pattern that sort of started near the last week of July where we've kind of had upper level low move through, then 5 to 10 days of down weather, then upper level low starts to reform while the heat builds, and then it comes in 5 to 10 days about. So we're basically back into that same pattern, right? Okay, this is bad news.
There it is. This is bad news.
My God.
Falling out right now.
Anything could happen.
Get on!
Wow. I'll watch the video later.
More blankets and water.
They dry mopping this.
Just want to let you know that this show is sponsored currently by the Wildfires, Floods, and Chaos Communications Podcast. That's a team of information officers who've worked all over Western Canada on floods and fires and things like that, relating to you the things they've learned and the struggles they've had and the ways that they think they could be better and the ways that they feel were successful. So it's a very interesting podcast, communicationspodcast.ca. I mean, you don't very often get real people from emergency services talking like this. So I think you should I really enjoy the episodes. Okay, communicationspodcast.ca. Let's go. Well, now that I've let you know the weather's going to change, it will not be changing today or tomorrow or the day after. That's for sure. We got a couple good days coming up ahead here, and this is look at this. No thunderstorms except for maybe the Dempster Highway up there north of Dawson City. Just looking at Canada briefly today, there is air quality advisory, and we'll talk about why that is in a little bit. The fire up there by Tweedsmuir has been really torching off. It's the one fire in the southern BC that's really doing that. Air quality advisory is still in effect for Saskatchewan. And I believe that would still go for Manitoba as well. Yes, and we got severe thunderstorm watches going on in northern Ontario. It looks like that main thunderstorm risk is really for Manitoba, southern Manitoba, maybe a little bit of hail there, but Ontario is where the big action is going to be happening today. So if you happen to be living in northern Ontario, enjoy the show. Here's a satellite map this morning, and it was a little more pronounced yesterday. So this is the second time actually that I filmed this. I filmed this exact same forecast last night. And I filmed it and filmed it and filmed it. And then at the end of filming it, I realized that I hadn't turned the microphone on. So I had just lots of video of my... Something like that. So now I'm back filming with volume, and it's a little more pronounced last night, but you can still sort of see it. We got the big high pressure sitting there over, mostly over New York State, and then some newer around Idaho. It's mostly the same as last night. We got big high pressure there, so that's trapping as a block, and we got a big trough sitting down there in the middle that's moving through the prairies, and we've seen that's why that Manitoba, Ontario are getting the bulk of this bad weather. Maybe a little bit of bad weather going on down there in the United States, but that's far southern. That's out of our concern area for what we forecast. So one thing that we are looking at is this big low pressure ball. It was down to about 980. I think it's raised its central pressure a little bit. It's going to be slamming into the Alaska Panhandle pretty hard there. And as it does that, it will give us a little bit more time in the nice weather. However, this splits up. This is going to hang around there, this lingering instability, and then basically reform itself as an upper level low sometime, maybe at the end of the weekend, beginning of next week. At the 500 millibar level, that's the bottom end of the jet stream, which is the weather delivery system. You can see here we go, nice weather, Saturday, it's looking good Sunday, not too bad for Sunday, Monday, not too bad, ow, bam, Monday, Tuesday, something coming there, and there you can see that low. It's trying to reform itself there and give us another repeat of the same pattern we more or less been in ever since, I don't know, it was July 22nd or 3rd or whatever it was when the big thunderstorms kicked off and our entire summer weather changed from that period of hot and dry we had that was stable to a period of roly-poly weather, much like the way this jet stream is, up and down, up and down, up and down. Now, if you go to Weather Underground, I do have this brand new weather station that you can actually see right here behind me. That's the touch screen, the interface, right? So on that is everything that is on here. And so this is pretty neat. You can always go to Wonder Map, and if you see where Wells is on there, if you see my station pop up, then you can click on it and you can come see anything that's going on here in Wells, Caribbean Weather Dude station. So yeah, only 5.1 degrees still this morning at 8:16 while I'm recording this. So yeah, zero wind, nothing happening. High pressure of about 1,019.64 hectopascals. Pretty high pressure. Pretty hot pressure. Someone just drove by and honked at me in a white truck. I don't know who that might have been, but that's cool. So yeah, yesterday for today, So far, the low was 1.7 degrees. So this morning it got to very stupidly freaking cold. Not so bad yesterday, reaching a high of 21 here in Wells, 21.7, 25 the day beforehand. And you can see we really hit that high right around 1 o'clock today. Probably a good time to expect it. And you can see here below is the winds. The winds picked up pretty high. We got up to 27, I believe. 27.7 wind gusts yesterday, so that's what helped feed some of those fires and pick them up out there. Most absolutely for sure. And I want to show you this kind of, just teach you a little bit about weather. Now what's happening during the day is the warm air rises and then it sinks back down as it cools, right? And that makes wind. So you can see as the sun comes up, more and more of that rising, falling behavior happening in the wind. And then it just sort of cuts off right when the sun starts to disappear. And then look how fast our temperature drops here in Wells. From 6 p.m. to 9, we went from 20 to 8. And then you can see here, here's our solar radiation. And you can see how there's an exact correlation between when there's the most solar radiation to when there's the most temperature to when the weather becomes active. And yesterday, the activity was only wind. There's also weekly and monthly mode. So I am going to, you can see we got our warmest day so far this week was on Monday at 25. When it did, I can't, there you go, 25.3. So I am going to put a video up about the installation of my new home weather station that I put up, the VVOR Meteorological Center station, and how much it costs and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to make a video about it. It would be pretty entertaining and interesting for you. And if you want to have one of your own weather stations, if you get the VVOR station, you get a free membership if you start broadcasting on WonderMap. No advertisement or whatever on your WonderMap. So that's pretty cool, right? So we were just talking about that bad boy that's been making a lot of smoke out there. And I know John Rempel, he got this image. This is that same fire out by Tweedsmuir yesterday. Look at that. That is just a excellent, beautiful picture, man. It looks so cool. So that is this guy right here, this bad boy, and it's got a couple different fire designations. I guess there's maybe more than one fire there. There's 12015, and there's 11204 there, and then nearby is 11201. But I'm not sure which one exactly he's looking at there in the photograph. This one seems to have had a lot of activity though yesterday, so I would suggest that maybe it's this guy right here, 12. Well, anyways, that's, if you look at the rest of the province of British Columbia, there's not a whole lot of fire activity going on. Maybe up in the northeast, yeah, there's a little. Go down our buddy down by Cache Creek there by Lytton. He's got one little dot hanging out, so, you know, there may be one hot spot there. I'm not seeing much activity in the Kootenays. So fires are quiet there. They've really taken their beating because of the weather. We knew that was going to happen. We predicted that here. And then northeast showing a little more activity now than it had. But, you know, it's compared to how crazy the northeast has been over the last 2 years. That's very little too. And even up in the Northwest Territories, looking pretty calm so far today. But we do have our big smoke makers over there in Saskatchewan, which there's been a bit of a quick weather change there, so we'll see what happens to them. However, that is more or less the picture. We're in September. There are some fires still burning. It is still hot enough, and it will be hot enough. We will see an increase in fire behavior until the weather pattern changes. So let's have a look at how hot it's going to be here for the next few minutes, and when does this pattern change and how's it going to change. But before I do, we'll just have a look at the fire danger for Wildland fires. So here we see, northern Saskatchewan did take a bit of a change, and same with Manitoba is looking bad and looking good, and so same with Ontario. So there's been some real changes with the weather in the fire danger through those regions right now. BC is not fully out of the concern yet area, and of course out where the Tweedsmuir fire is burning is where we seem to have our highest threshold for fire activity in province British Columbia right now. And with the warmest days are still ahead for British Columbia still yet in this pattern. Look at Vancouver Island, even pretty warm. Go have a look at Thursday afternoon, and you can see too Thursday afternoon getting warmer yet. Of course, not quite as hot as it is down there in 44 down there in the desert, 40s up through California, up through Oregon into the high 30s as well for Washington State. So some of this heat's going to try to make its way into Western Canada. It's not going to show up with those same values that we see there, but Alberta and Saskatchewan looking to get warm the next few days, same with BC. Bump up to Friday looking pretty good for everyone all around. Again, we're looking at high 20s, maybe low 30s in places for BC. Alberta looking nice and warm, even up into the Northwest Territories. They're getting their last throw of warm. They might not have much more after this. In fact, none of us might have much more after this. This could be the end of it. By Saturday, maybe some of that's going to be making its way into Winnipeg. or in Manitoba, right? So enjoy it if you get it. A little bit of it Manitoba, and then by Sunday, still hanging around BC. That low sitting north of us now, starting to develop, and that's our storm that was here, and all that instability it had. Well, it's going to start to try to make a new storm here. Going to try to make a new upper level low, and that's going to start really on Sunday, and that's going to be the changer of our weather. We're going to watch how next week that heat starts to move east and we come out of it a little bit. I mean, it's still staying pretty nice though in southern BC. That's a change in the forecast, even from yesterday. So there you go. Maybe that's why I held off making my forecast until this morning. But yeah, sometime next week we are going to see that low pound through, and it is going to pull colder air down from the north, and it is going to change our weather more or less. We are looking at Sunday having a fairly significant thunderstorm outbreak in southern British Columbia. These are days away now, so we're not going to guess about this stuff yet. We will refrain from all guesses, I think, until we get close to the weekend here, right? But looking like that low pressure is going to settle in, and looking like it's going to pull cool air from the north. And when it does, it's going to change our pattern, our story a little bit here, right? So look forward to some weather change at some point next week. As you're going to see, there's a lot of available moisture for this all to work with, right? It's stringing right out almost to Hawaii, this big subtropical or this big tropical plume, whatever, right? So subtropical moisture, yeah. So that's coming all the way up to the coast, right? So that's kind of our telltale story, and that's what we know is going to be a bit of a game changer here at some point. It's going to put a lot of rain and moisture up into parts of northern BC, up into the Yukon and the Northwest Territories. So we're looking at next week, trying to see this low may hold off a little longer in reforming. We were kind of thinking that maybe by Sunday it would start to show itself on the coast. Now models are looking at maybe a little further out. So again, I don't have specifics for you today on this stuff because it's going to change a bunch of times anyways. But we see, we're going to do a pattern of storms starting to hit the coast anyways. So looking at maybe a chance of higher winds on Monday. We're looking at just the humidex values in BC coming up the next few days. So this is fire weather. Do expect, especially if you're near that Tweedsmuir Park, do expect things to get a little smoky over the next few days, while this gets beaten down by this trying to redevelop low, more or less, right? That's, we saw it up there at the beginning, and then it kind of lost its shape, and it's just sort of becoming this larger area of low pressure in the west, trying to find a way to form itself into a tighter area, and it looks like it might achieve that sometime next week. In the meantime, though, we're going to have still warm weather into the weekend at least, right? So enjoy that. Do what I do. Go climb a mountain or something like that. In fact, I put up a very cool video on YouTube there this week about climbing Mount Patchett. I go for solo hikes once in a while, especially my fire season's over, right? So finally, I could go out and do things and be away from cell service, be uncontactable. So I went and had a great mountain hike. Go check that out. The views of the Bower Park are fantastic. And then Mark Ingalls and he's a meteorologist, but he also studied geology in university. And I have a long history of working in geology. We got together and made a new video about everything you need to know about the early warning system for British Columbia and earthquakes. Yes, there's now an early warning system for earthquakes. So do check that out right here on the channel. It's a pretty good video, actually. Put a lot of work into it. It's insightful and informational, and it will tell you everything you need to know about the chance of earthquakes in BC for the most part, right? So, okay. Thanks to all the patrons and supporters and sponsors. You're helping me stay alive now. My fire season's over. I'm going to need you even more than ever. So please support the channel the best you can and hit like, share, and subscribe. That's things you can do for absolute free to support me. Okay, that's all for this morning. Okay, bye now.